I think I got it after quite a bit of grinding and torching and bending and pulling and twisting. I think we're in the right position finally. It's the first time we got the new A-arm bolted up on both sides. So I got the bolt going through there, so that lets me know that everything on that bracket is okay. And I got just a drift pin here that I just used to poke through and line it up. The thing that I'm gonna have to fix now, you guys can see, is this part. So that's gotta come in, not very much, maybe 1/4 inch. So I gotta bend that in. I also have to weld a piece to go over top of that. Basically, I'm just gonna weld a plate over top on the outside, drill a new hole, and go in here, and I gotta re-weld everything to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. This was the hardest part, guys, was getting this lined up. Okay, so now same thing, A-arms bolted in, still in position, and I'm just using a piece of cardboard here because again we had to cut that out to get it into the right position. So I'm just going to use a piece of cardboard here and make up a template here. Going to trim a little bit off of the back, and then I'll have to add a little bit here because you guys can see I cut myself a little short there. So I'll add about 1/4 inch on this side. Okay, so this is what I got here. So that's my final template, and then again I added just a little bit of thickness by just moving it that way to take up that little bit of space. I marked my hole, so I'll cut this out and then I'll fit it just to make sure it fits. If I have to do any final grinding, I'll do that on the bench grinder here. Okay, so we now have a hole in our bracket. I just got to cut that out. And the final drill bit size that I used was 13/32. So I just used smaller drill bits and then, worked my way up. Okay, so I got this bracket all cut out, and basically I'm just going to fit it in just like that. I tried to contour it best I could to the bracket. And I'll weld up on top on the left side there, tack it into place, get my bolt through, make sure everything's good. I still have the dowel there, so I know that this bracket is lined up with that bracket, and that's all that really matters. But like I said, I'll just tack it into place, take the A-arm off, and then I'll weld it solid. Okay, so I've welded this thing up as best I can. I got up there, down under there, as best I can. I've welded here, which I'm gonna grind up and clean up because I've added a little bit of thickness. So I just got to clean that up with the grinder. And then up in behind, I've also got right there that I welded. So here's the final product, guys. So it's fully welded up there to the right side, all in the back there. I took the die grinder, ground all that down. This right side here, same thing, all welded solid now. Before it was just tacked. Tacks didn't really look that good, but it was hard bridging the gap in between the tube frame and the plate steel where the bracket is, but we got her. Same thing with the back side over here. I got that all ground down and welded, but as you guys can see, brackets still line up. There was a little bit of warpage, so this piece here bent in slightly, but that's okay. I can always bend it out. My biggest fear was that it would go back or forward or up or down. But it didn't. It stayed pretty good. So that's why I welded it, let it cool down, welded it some more, let it cool down, ground it down. And I'm just using a 90-degree die grinder here with a carbide bit. Works awesome. Takes the material away really fast. But that's it, guys. So I'll let that cool down, and then I'll get all these A-arms bolted up, tightened up, and we can get our spindle on. Okay, so the A-arms are all bolted up, and they're nice and tight. You guys can see now I've got everything painted. So I used like a trem-clad rust enamel black gloss paint, painted everywhere that I could so that nothing rusts. And I gotta say, if you didn't know that I did that, looks pretty factory to me, and it's solid. Okay, so now's the time to bolt your strut onto your upper A-arm because you're gonna have to push your A-arm down to get the strut in. Now is a good time to liberally apply all your grease. I got it on the ball joint here and on the bottom A-arm because we're going to be putting our steering spindle on after we get the strut bolted up. Also put grease up into there. Okay, so I'm just trying to line everything up. I got the A-arms just about in the right position, but you guys can see that the hub is slightly angled in on the top. So what we're going to do is jack up the A-arm to get it into the right position so that that hub straightens out a bit, and then I can tighten the ball joints that connect it. You guys can see right there because they're kind of on an angle, right? So all we got to do is jack up our A-arms to the point where this thing would be sitting normally if it was you know, on the ground because it would have a little bit of weight on it. That'll allow me to bolt up the hub into hopefully the right position. Okay, so I tried to hook up my spindle, but because the A-arms were, you know, in the wrong position, the spindle ended up being a little inward, so I have to basically compress this upper A-arm in, and the only way I was able to do that easily was just wrap a ratcheting strap around it, and I've ratcheted it to the point where the A-arms moved up, and now hopefully I should be able to put my spindle on and have it 90 degrees you know, to the ground. Okay, so it should look a little something like this. So that's a little bit better than what it was, so I'm going to tighten everything up, get everything torqued to spec, and then I'll release the pressure off of the jack and off of the ratchet strap. Okay, so that worked out better than I thought it would. Everything's lining up now. Okay, then you're going to torque these to 33 foot-pounds and put cotter pins in them, and then the spindle part is done. Okay, then we're going to be torquing our shock absorber mounts. Those are 22 foot-pounds. Our A-arm mounts, top and bottom, those are 33 foot-pounds for all of those four. And then our tie rod, which we're going to do last, that's going to be 40 foot-pounds. Just remember that. Okay, so here comes the part where we're going to be doing tie rod adjustment. So basically there's a tool that you can use. You lay it down in front of the machine and it's got these little feelers that go out and, okay, make sure you're straight there, and then same thing, you know, make sure you're straight here. We ain't got that. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to straighten up this tire as much as I can. And remember, because tie rod's not connected on the hub, we're going to straighten out the hub as much as I can. And we're going to adjust our tie rod, right? Loosen or tighten to the point where it drops right in. So you guys can see I'm a little short there, so I'm going to have to extend this. Now it's reverse threads, if I can remember correctly. So I believe that on the one end, righty is loosey, lefty is tightened. So it's a little backwards, but you guys will figure it out. So basically you guys want to get both ends loose of your tie rod, and you'll see that right now we're just a little bit too tight. It won't go in there. So what we're going to do is grab this tie rod here, and we're just going to loosen it, right? So righty is loosey, and you guys will see as we loosen this, it'll drop right into position. Just like that. Okay, so now it's bottomed out right where we want it to be. So now I'm going to tighten up that nut on the bottom there. Again, that's 40 foot-pounds of torque. Then we're going to go ahead and tighten up our locking nuts onto our tie rod to make sure that everything's in position. I'll go ahead and get the wheel on, and we'll see what it looks like. Then go ahead and torque your wheel lug nuts to 47 foot-pounds. And at the end of it all, we're left with something like this. Now I might have to do a slight tie rod adjustment now that I got the tire on, but here's the thing. So on his front right wheel, which is this left, you guys can see it comes in at the top ever so slightly. And if we go over to this one here, we can see that it goes out at the top ever so slightly. The issue with that is that the upper frame rails are bent. So when this thing got into a collision, the upper frame rails, both of those rails shifted over slightly. So that's why our upper left A-arm here is out a little more than it should be, and our front upper right A-arm here is in slightly, a little more than it should be. But that's frame rail related, and I can't bend the frame rails. So this is as good as it gets right here, guys. So I'll get this thing fired up and we'll take it for a little run. So that's it for part 4. We ended up getting this thing running and driving. The handlebars are still bent, and I didn't want to go and bend that because this thing probably rolled when it was involved in the accident, but that's something that the owner can take care of. We got the machine operational, and that's what my customer wanted. If you guys enjoyed the video, think about leaving me a thumbs up. You know, it really helps me out. This was a 4-part series, so if you missed a part, you can go and check the links down in the description below. I'll have all the links to parts 1 through 4 of this series. You can click here to subscribe, and you can click over here to watch one of my previous videos. I upload every single week, so be sure to come on back, check the channel out for new content, and as always, guys, thanks for watching.